If you've ever been to the store looking for, say, a wind chime or a mobile to hang in a patio area and just haven't really found what you like, you can always make your own. We've all made mobiles as kids in elementary school. It's one of the first projects you do is tie things together with string, and you usually give it to your mom when you get home. But a grown-up version of it is something that you can use either in the garden or on a patio or something to just decorate the outside part of your house. And if what you find at the store isn't really up your alley, you can make your own thing, whether it's going out and buying different types of materials that you can then put together to make what you want, or just using stuff you might find around the house. A good thing about this is not only can you customize it for your own tastes and preferences, but you can make them theme-oriented, whether you want to make it a kitchen-oriented thing or a specific color. It's a good thing that kids can do to pick their own materials that they might want to use to make the craft out of. Or you can just use things you find around and kind of make it haphazard and random and see what turns up. One really fun garden element you can make is a combination of a wind chime and also a bird scare. The noise and the shiny light will scare birds away from a vegetable garden, and the sound will be somewhat pleasing to the ear if you hear it outside, say on a windy porch or just even out in the garden when you're walking along a pathway. We used found materials for this. We used the ramekins and also the apple core, but really any material can be used as a base as long as it has a nice kind of radiating area to tie things off on, and as long as the hanging materials make a sound when you hit them together. So what we have is the apple core, and if you get an idea of how deep or how long you want the strings to be or how far down you want the hanging items to hang, I would start with the smallest one and then cut progressively longer pieces of wire as you go down. So what we're using here is just a standard 1/3 of a millimeter, I think it is, or 3 millimeter wire that you use for craft projects or beading. It's really available at just about any craft store or box store that has craft materials. You could also use fishing line if you don't want to see the wire. I would go ahead and not cut the wire because that way you can adjust the length later, but go ahead and get the ramekins wired up and ready to assemble so that you can then adjust the length as you see fit. We drilled holes in the bottoms of the ramekins so that we could put the wire through. What you want to do to start is just go ahead and take the wire, put it through the hole, and we selected nuts to use, but you could really use a washer or any item that's larger than the hole but still small enough to fit inside the ramekin. And you just thread the wire through the nut, make a knot, so now that we've got everything wired up, we can go ahead and start assembling it. And I'm going to start with the shortest one and just thread the wire through the apple core or whatever anchoring device you want to use. And before you tie it, hold it up so that you can take a look at it and see if it looks right to you. So if this is your shortest one, keep that in mind that this is going to be where it starts. So when you tie this, if you are using an apple core, just be really careful because it is going to be sharp. It's made to slice apples and fingers. And also don't tie your wire too tight or you might cut your wire. And there's your first one. Go ahead and cut off any excess, or if you want to wait till the end to cut it off just in case you need to make adjustments, that's probably a wise idea. So as you're going through, you want to do your second one, and when you decide on the length for hanging them, you want to make sure that they're long enough to make a difference, but still short enough to where they're going to hit each other. So have them close enough together to where they bang together and you can hear the noise. If you hang it way down here, you're not going to hear anything and you kind of defeat the purpose. So once you have everything tied on, test it out. Should make plenty of noise. And you're going to go through and trim off the excess pieces just to neaten it up a little bit. And we're going to put our whisk in the middle just to act as a little bit of a buffer and to give it some extra interest. So when you hold it up, put the whisk inside and see if it looks like it's the right length or distance down from the center. I like the way that looks. Looks almost like a chandelier. And then go ahead and tie it off. At least we know it's going to be plenty noisy. And then once we get all this tied off, we'll trim the extra pieces, being really careful not to cut a piece that's hanging something. and clean it up. And that'll be pretty much how it looks. So now that we've got this assembled, just if it's not the way you like it, remember you can always adjust it. And you're really only limited by your imagination. You could paint these items if you want to make them specific colors. You can use all kinds of different things that you either purchase, secondhand, new, or find around the house. So you don't necessarily have to go out and buy something to have a pretty element in your garden. Some other ideas and some other things that we made. We made another kitchen element, but we used a corkscrew for the centerpiece. And then we just hung whisks, measuring spoons, and a can opener from the middle. Makes a little bit of noise. The spoons add a nice clank because they're nice and thin, and often with these thin items, you'll get a lot more noise out of them than with heavier items. If nothing else, it's an attractive noise maker. And if you want to go with something a little bit more natural and you don't necessarily want metal, you can use, again, the bamboo. So one good material is bamboo to use. It makes a nice sound when you put it together. It's more of a natural looking material than metal. You could also paint this if you wanted to, but it will age nicely if you leave it alone. And we just used the sisal rope and then some little beads to make it a little bit prettier. Again, this has the double benefit of being aesthetically appealing, and also it makes a little bit of noise. Like I said, you're only limited by your imagination, so you could use just about anything that you find around the house that you can tie a string to that you think will look good hanging up or that might make noise. Bells, marbles, ceramic tile pieces, old plates, just about anything you can think of can be used to make either a wind chime or a mobile. And it's a good alternative when you just can't find what you're looking for pre-made, and you have the added pride of making it yourself and hanging it up in your landscape or giving it as a gift.